I watched a werewolf tear a man apart, and then watched the system pretend it never happened. There are 2 rules in my job. First, the system doesn't lie. Second, if it does, you're already in trouble. I've been sitting in this chair for 6 years, watching a city that never sleeps and never forgets. At least, that's what they told us during training. Bright rooms, confident instructors, and slogans that sounded like promises. We see everything. We protect everyone. Yeah, right. The reality smells like burnt coffee and recycled air. Night shift means silence. No chatter, no footsteps, just the low hum of servers and the endless glow of monitors painting everything in shades of sterile blue. Rows of screens stretch in front of me. Traffic cams, rooftop feeds, alleyway sensors, biometric overlays flickering like ghosts, stitched into reality. I lean back, cracking my neck, eyes scanning automatically. Patterns, movement, behavior, routine. God, I love routine. It's predictable. It doesn't bite back. Until it does. Sector 12 lights up on my left screen. A flicker. Just a blip. My system tags it automatically. Potential aggression werewolf subject detected. I sigh, dragging the feed front and center. Let me guess. I mutter, rubbing my eyes. Another drunk alpha who thinks streetlights are a personal insult. The alley comes into focus. Narrow, wet pavement, reflecting neon like smeared paint. A man stumbles backward into frame. Hands up, shaking. And then the thing steps out of the shadows. Not fully shifted. Not clean. Halfway. Wrong. Its shoulders are too broad, spine curved unnaturally, muscles twitching under skin that looks like it can't decide what it wants to be. Eyes glowing. No, burning. With that feral, unfiltered instinct they tell us doesn't exist anymore. Okay, I whisper, straightening. That's not standard. The man tries to run. He doesn't get far. The werewolf lunges. Fast. Too fast. There's a sound. Wet. Sharp. Final. The kind that bypasses logic and goes straight to your spine. Blood splashes across the camera lens in a dark arc. The victim screams. No, not even a scream, just a broken sound cut off too soon. My fingers freeze over the controls. Protocol says, tag it, flag it, dispatch response. My body doesn't move. Because something about this, about the way it's happening, feels off. The werewolf doesn't just attack, it finishes. Efficient, precise, almost surgical in its brutality. And then, it looks straight at the camera. My breath catches. For a second. Just a second. It feels like it's looking at me. Then the feed glitches. A single flicker, static, and everything resets. The alley is empty. Clean. No blood. No body. No werewolf. Just rain. I blink. What? My fingers move now. Fast. Sharp. Pulling up the buffer. Rewinding. Nothing. No attack. No anomaly. No flagged behavior. The system overlay calmly reappears on the side of the screen. Status. Normal. No anomaly. Detected. A cold weight settles in my chest. No, I say under my breath, leaning closer. No, that's not. I access raw feed. Locked. I override. Denied. Since when do you deny me? I mutter, jaw tightening. My pulse is louder now. A steady thrum behind my ears. I can feel the tension creeping into my shoulders, my fingers hovering over the controls like they're not entirely mine anymore. Okay, think. Systems glitch. It happens. Data corruption, lag, packet loss. Except glitches don't clean up blood. They don't erase bodies. They don't rewrite reality in under a second. My gaze drops to the log panel. There it is. Time-stamped. Precise. 042:17. Feed active. 042:19. No anomaly detected. 2 seconds. 2 seconds where a man died. 2 seconds that now officially never existed. A laugh slips out of me. Dry, humorless. Great, I murmur. That's new. I lean back slowly, staring at the screen like it might blink first. The alley remains empty. Perfect. Wrong. My jaw tightens until it hurts. Because here's the thing. I've seen errors before. Minor ones. Harmless ones. The kind you fix with a report and forget by morning. This isn't random. This is deliberate. Someone didn't just miss it. Someone removed it. I feel it in my gut. Sharp and certain, cutting through the noise of logic and protocol. The system didn't fail. It obeyed. And that's the part that scares me, because if the system can erase something like that, what else has it erased? My fingers curl slightly, the tremor finally catching up to me. I flex them, trying to shake it off, but the cold has already settled in, deep and stubborn. 6 years. 6 years of watching everything. And somehow, I miss this. I exhale slowly, eyes still locked on the screen. All right, I say quietly. No one answers. The system hums, indifferent. I lean forward again, pulling up hidden access layers, bypass routes I wasn't supposed to memorize but did anyway, because I don't trust anything I didn't break myself. If you think I'm letting that go, I add under my breath, a faint edge creeping into my voice. You don't know me at all. The cursor blinks, waiting, and for the first time in a long time, I'm not just watching, I'm looking. If the system lies, you don't report it. You dig. I don't log the incident. I don't flag it. I don't do anything I'm supposed to do. Instead, I close the official panel, mute the alert channels, and open something I haven't touched in months. My personal terminal. It's not exactly illegal. It's just unapproved curiosity, the kind that gets you quietly reassigned if anyone notices. All right, I mutter, rolling my shoulders as I bring up the raw access interface. Let's see what you're hiding. The system responds with its usual clean, obedient silence. Smooth animations, polite latency, like a well-trained dog pretending it doesn't know where the mess came from. I don't trust it. I root around the main interface, bypassing the AI layer, digging into the pre-processed feed, the ugly version, the one nobody likes to look at because it's messy, incomplete, and painfully honest. Code scrolls, data streams flicker. There, Sector 12, timestamp 04217. I isolate the feed and force load the raw packet data. For a second, nothing happens. Then, a flicker, static, and something moves. I lean closer. There you are. It's subtle, almost nothing. A distortion in the frame, like heat bending the air. The background shifts, just slightly, as if something passes through it. But there's no body, no outline, no thermal signature, just movement. Okay, I breathe, pulse picking up again. That's not normal. I scrub back, replay, again, every time, the same thing. The man stumbles into frame, visible, terrified. Then, the distortion appears. Then, the man is gone. No blood in the raw feed, no visible attack. Just absence, like reality skipped a frame. I sit back slowly, fingers hovering over the keyboard. That's not a glitch, I say, mostly to myself. Glitches repeat randomly. This is consistent, precise, intentional. I open a new window and start pulling related timestamps. Every incident from the past week, marked as clean but flagged for aggression before being cleared. There are more than I expected. 3, 7, 12. Each one identical. Initial detection, aggression spike, system reset. No anomaly. Yeah, I mutter, a humorless smile tugging at my mouth. Nothing suspicious about that. I start mapping them. A city grid unfolds across my screens. Streets, districts, sectors, glowing in cool blue. One by one, I mark each incident point. Dots appear, then lines. Because the movement isn't random. It can't be. I overlay the raw distortions, direction, speed, trajectory, and suddenly, it clicks. The dots connect, not perfectly, not cleanly, but enough to see a pattern. Someone, is moving through the city along paths the system doesn't recognize, or refuses to. Invisible routes, I murmur, tracing one line with my finger across the screen. You're not just hiding. You're traveling, and wherever that path intersects with an incident, the incident disappears. My stomach tightens, because that means the thing I saw, that wasn't the only one. I pull up deeper logs, pushing past access limits that are starting to feel less like suggestions and more like warnings. The system slows, not much, just enough to notice. Don't do that, I say quietly. You're not subtle. A soft chime interrupts me. Access warning, restricted data set. I snort. Yeah, I figured. I keep going anyway, because now I need to know. I dig into the earliest instance in the pattern, chasing the trajectory backward. Where it starts, where it breaks, where it disappears completely. And then, a name. It flashes for less than a second before the system tries to pull it away. I catch it. Freeze the frame. Ethan Vale. The file flickers. Then, error. Record not found. I stare at the screen. You've got to be kidding me. I rewind, pull the data again. Nothing. The name is gone, like it never existed, but I saw it, and that's enough. I sit back, exhaling slowly, fingers pressing against my temples as the pieces start rearranging themselves in my head. A pattern of invisible movement, incidents that vanish, a name that deletes itself. Ethan Vale, I repeat, under my breath. Whoever you are, you're not just hiding from the system, you're inside it. I try to access the file directly. Search query, manual index, deep archive, denied. The system doesn't even pretend this time. The response is immediate. Final, locked. I lean back in my chair, staring at the screen, the faint hum of the servers suddenly louder than it should be. For a moment, I just sit there, processing. Then, a quiet laugh escapes me. Great, I say, rubbing a hand over my face. Now, the system has secrets. I glance back at the map. The lines, the paths, the ghost moving through my city like it owns the place. That's comforting. My eyes narrow. Because, here's the thing, secrets go both ways. And if the system thinks it can hide something from me, it's about to learn how stubborn I can be. I lean forward again, fingers returning to the keyboard. Let's see how deep this goes, Ethan Vale. This time, I'm not chasing a glitch, I'm chasing a ghost. There's a difference between missing data and erased data. Missing is sloppy. Erased is clean, deliberate. Ethan Vale wasn't missing. He was scrubbed, and whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing. All right, I murmur, cracking my knuckles as I reroute my access again. Let's go digging. The main system is a dead end. I learned that fast. Every official entry tied to the name dissolves the second I touch it, like the system is politely pretending it has no idea what I'm talking about. So I stop asking nicely. I drop lower, older, archives. The interface changes immediately. No sleek overlays, no helpful AI smoothing things out. Just raw storage structures, outdated indexing, and data that hasn't been polished for presentation. Ugly. Perfect. Now we're talking. The archive hums under my commands. Slow but honest. No filters, no corrections, just whatever survived. I start broad, medical, experimental, behavioral logs tied to werewolf regulation programs. There are a lot more than the public thinks. Of course there are. I scroll past dozens of entries. Subjects stabilized, rejected, transferred, terminated. Clean language for messy things. Then, a flicker, not a file, a fragment, like something half-burned that didn't quite turn to ash. I grab it before it can disappear. For a moment, the screen resists, data stuttering, fields collapsing into blank space. Then it gives, barely, subject, V, Lee, E, status, unstable, flag, Phase shift anomaly. I go still. Phase shift? That's not a term we use in the field. That's research language. Experimental. Dangerous. I pull more. The file tries to close. I override. It tries to corrupt. I isolate. It fights. Subtle. Quiet. Like pressure building behind the interface. Relax, I mutter. I'm just reading. The next fragment loads. A scan. Grainy. Distorted. A figure on a table. Restraints visible at the wrists. Medical equipment surrounding him. Wires running like veins into machines that look more interested in data than survival. The face is blurred. Of course it is. But the posture, tense, coiled, like something ready to break. That feels real. I swallow. Yeah. I whisper. You're not a criminal. You're a project. The log updates. Observation. Subject exhibits non-traceable movement. System integration failed. Recommendation. Termination or containment. I lean back slowly, the chair creaking under me. Non-traceable movement. Invisible to the system. My eyes flick back to the map still open on my side monitor. The ghost paths cutting across the city like scars. You didn't break the system, I say quietly. It broke. Trying to understand you. That's why he's not in the system. Not because he escaped. Because the system can't hold him. A faint pulse of adrenaline hits my chest, sharp and electric, and suddenly, this isn't just interesting. This is dangerous, because if someone created him, and then tried to erase him, then everything I've been watching for 6 years, every controlled werewolf, every flagged aggression, every neat little report, that's not protection, that's containment. My jaw tightens. Of course it is, I mutter. Why would it be anything else? The file glitches again, more aggressively this time. The text fragments distort, letters collapsing into static. I grab what I can before it goes. Last known status. Lost during transfer. Location. Data corrupted. Yeah, I say dryly. Convenient. The archive goes dark. Access revoked. No warning this time. Just silence. I stare at the blank screen for a moment. Then exhale slowly, pushing back from the desk. Well, I say, standing, stretching the stiffness out of my shoulders. That was subtle. My gaze drifts back to the city map. The ghost paths are still there, still moving, still real, and now I know what I'm looking at. Not a glitch, not a criminal, a survivor. My fingers tap against the edge of the desk, mind already shifting gears. If I can't find him in the system, I find him where the system fails. I pull up the trajectory data again, recalculating with what I know now. Movement speed, directional shifts, pattern gaps. Where does he go when he disappears completely? Where does even the system lose him? The answer forms slowly. A cluster of zones, dead zones, places with weak coverage, outdated hardware, or deliberate blind spots. I isolate the next predicted intersection point. A district near the edge of the city grid. Industrial, half-abandoned, barely worth monitoring. Of course, if I were a ghost, I murmur, grabbing my jacket from the back of the chair, that's where I'd go too. The thought settles in, heavy, unavoidable. For 6 years, I've watched everything from a safe distance. Controlled, filtered, untouchable. I've always known what was happening. Or at least, I thought I did. Now I'm not even sure what I've been looking at. I pause at the edge of the room, glancing back at the rows of monitors. They glow the same way they always have. Calm, reliable, lying. A faint, humorless smile tugs at my lips. Don't worry, I say under my breath. I'll be back. Because the first will, but not like this. Not as a watcher. I turn and head for the exit. The quiet hum of the system fading behind me with every step. For the first time in a long time, I'm stepping outside the screen and into the part of the city the system can't see. Let's meet in person, Ethan Vale. This time, I'm not watching the ghost. I'm walking into its path. The city feels different when you're not watching it through a screen. It's louder, closer, and a hell of a lot less predictable. I knew that in theory. I just didn't expect it to feel like this. The moment I step into the blind zone, something in my chest tightens. Not fear exactly, but absence. No overlays, no data tags, no quiet reassurance that somewhere something is tracking what I can't see. Just me and the city. Great, I mutter, shoving my hands into my jacket pockets as I move deeper into the district. Love that for me. The buildings here are half abandoned. Old industrial blocks with cracked concrete and rusted metal skeletons. Neon signs flicker weakly, casting uneven light that never quite reaches the ground. Water drips from somewhere above, echoing in the narrow alleyways like a ticking clock. Everything feels unobserved, unfiltered, alive in a way I don't trust. I slow my pace, scanning automatically. Doorways, rooftops, reflections in broken glass. Old habits don't disappear just because the system does. If anything, they get sharper. You're out of your element, I mutter to myself. No argument there. I follow the path I mapped, one of the ghost trajectories. The line cuts through the district like it belongs here, slipping between buildings, turning corners that don't make sense unless you already know where you're going. Whoever, or whatever, moves along this route. They've done it before, a lot. My pulse picks up. Subtle but steady. I stop at the intersection point. This is where the last distortion vanished completely. No signal, no data, no trace. I exhale slowly. All right, I say under my breath. I'm here. Nothing answers. Of course not. A breeze slips through the alley, cold and damp, brushing against the back of my neck. I ignore it, shifting my weight slightly, every muscle in my body tuned tighter than I'd like to admit. This is stupid. I don't even know if he'll... You're early. I spin. Too fast. Too sharp. My hand instinctively goes to my side. No weapon, just habit, and my eyes lock onto the figure leaning casually against the far wall like he's been there the entire time. He wasn't. I would have seen him. I know I would have. And yet, there he is. Ethan Vale. Up close. He's not what I expected. No visible strain. No twitchy instability like the file suggested. Just stillness. Control. The kind of presence that doesn't need to announce itself to be felt. Dark clothes, blending into shadow without trying. Shoulders relaxed. Head tilted slightly as he watches me like I'm the interesting one here. His eyes catch the neon flicker. Something sharp there, something aware. I take a step forward, forcing my voice to stay level. You're hard to find. He smiles. It's not friendly, but it's not hostile either. Just amused. Funny, he says, voice low. Easy. I didn't think you'd manage it at all. My jaw tightens. You knew I was looking. Of course I did. He pushes off the wall, straightening. Not tense, not defensive. Just ready. Like this is all exactly how he expected it to go. My heartbeat ticks up again. Faster now. Not panic. Not yet. But my body's already adjusting. Stance shifting. Weight balanced. Ready to react if he moves. He notices. Of course he does. His gaze flicks briefly to my shoulders. My hands. The angle of my stance. Relax, he says lightly. If I wanted you dead, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Comforting, I reply dryly. A corner of his mouth lifts, isn't it? For a second, neither of us moves. The city hums quietly around us. Distant traffic, dripping water, the buzz of dying neon. No cameras, no witnesses, no system. Just two people standing in a place that technically doesn't exist. I take another step forward. Ethan Vale. He tilts his head slightly. That's what they called me. Is it wrong? Not exactly. His gaze sharpens. Just a fraction. Just incomplete. That sends a small, unwelcome chill down my spine. I ignore it. You're deleting incident records, I say, keeping my voice steady. Controlled. Why? His expression doesn't change, but something shifts behind it. Subtle. Measured. You came all the way out here, he says, almost conversational. And that's your first question? It's the only one that matters. He studies me for a moment longer. Then he exhales softly, like he's humoring me. You're looking at the wrong thing. I frown. That's not an answer. No, he agrees. It's not. Frustration flickers under my skin, sharp and immediate. People are dying. People are being erased. He corrects calmly. That's what I said. No. His gaze locks onto mine, suddenly precise. It's not. Silence stretches between us. Tight. Uncomfortable. Because I don't like the way he said that. I don't like the implication sitting just under his words. What does that mean? I ask. Quieter now. He watches me for a second longer. Then, he smiles again. And this time, there's something almost genuine in it. You're smarter than the system, he says. You'll figure it out. I already did, I snap. He moves. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just gone. 1 second he's there. The next. Empty space. No sound. No blur. No transition. Just absence. My breath catches. What the? I step forward instinctively, scanning the alley, turning sharply, checking every angle, every shadow, every possible exit point. Nothing. No footsteps. No movement. No trace. My pulse spikes, adrenaline hitting hard now, flooding my system as my brain scrambles to catch up with what my eyes just saw. That's not... I cut myself off, jaw clenching. That's not possible. Except it is. I just watched it happen. Again, I stand there, breathing harder than I should be. The silence pressing in around me like it knows something I don't. For the first time since I took this job, I don't know where to look. I don't know what I'm missing. And I hate that. I drag a hand through my hair, forcing myself to slow down, to think, but the certainty I've relied on for years, it's gone, replaced by something unfamiliar, unstable, a quiet, creeping loss of control. I exhale sharply, staring at the empty space where he stood just seconds ago. Yeah, I mutter under my breath. This isn't a glitch. This isn't a system error. This is something else entirely, and for the first time, I'm not the one watching, I'm the one being played. You don't catch something invisible by looking harder. You catch it by changing the rules of the game. I'm back in my chair before sunrise, staring at the same walls, the same screens, the same obedient lie pretending to be reality. Everything looks normal. Of course it does. I don't log the field encounter. I don't mention Ethan. Because if the system is hiding him, it's not on my side. All right, I mutter, rolling my sleeves up as I pull up the map again. Let's make this interesting. I replay the ghost trajectories, overlaying them with infrastructure data this time. Maintenance blind spots, outdated hardware, dead cameras nobody bothered replacing because coverage redundancy made it irrelevant. Except, it's not irrelevant. Not if you know where to look. Not if you're him. Or, I add quietly, fingers moving faster now, if you're me, I start building the trap, not a physical one, a data cage. If Ethan moves through blind zones, then I don't watch where he is. I watch where he has to be next. I mark convergence points, narrow corridors between dead sectors, places where even an invisible route has limited options. Then I do something I've never done before. I lie to the system. Just a little. I inject false maintenance reports, temporary outages, recalibration signals, nudging the system to think certain cameras are down when they're not. It resists. Subtle delays, minor errors, a hesitation in response time. Don't, I warn under my breath. The system complies. Barely. Good. I sit back, watching the map update, my pulse ticking steadily upward. Because this isn't passive anymore. This is a move, and if I'm right, he'll notice. He does. 2 hours later, Sector 9, one of my convergence points. I'm already there when it happens. Out in the field again, no screens, no safety net, just wet asphalt, flickering streetlights, and the quiet hum of a city that doesn't know it's being watched from the inside. I stand near the edge of the blind zone, pretending to be just another guy waiting for nothing in particular. My shoulders are loose, my breathing steady, my attention everywhere. Come on, I murmur under my breath. You're too smart to miss this. A second passes. Then, movement, not visible, not exactly, but I feel it. The air shifts. Pressure changes. Like something just stepped into the space beside me. My muscles tense instantly. There, I move. Fast. I pivot sharply, lunging forward, and my hand connects. Not empty air. Not nothing. Solid. Warm. Alive. For a split second, everything locks into place. I've got him. Ethan's eyes flash with something. Surprise, sharp and brief. Interesting. He breathes. I don't give him time. I twist, trying to pin him, using his own momentum against him. He's fast. Faster than any registered alpha I've seen, but I'm not relying on strength. I'm relying on prediction, on knowing where he has to go next. You're not... I start, tightening my grip. He moves. Not like before. Not gone. Not yet. He shifts, angles his body just enough to break my hold, twisting out with controlled precision. My fingers slip, catching fabric, then skin, then nothing. He steps back, visible, for now, breathing steady, calm, like this is fun. I straighten, pulse hammering now, every nerve lit up and sharp. You're adapting, he says, almost approving. I learn fast. I noticed. We circle slightly, the distance between us tight, charged. My body's fully awake now. Weight balanced, muscles coiled, ready to move again. I can feel the heat under my skin, the adrenaline settling into something focused. This time, I don't rush. Neither does he. You set this up, he says, glancing briefly around the street, the dead cameras, the gaps in coverage. Clever. Thank you. A faint smile touches his mouth. Still the wrong target. Not from where I'm standing. Exactly, he says softly. I move again. He meets me halfway. This time it's not a grab. It's a clash. Fast. Close. His movements are efficient, almost lazy in how little effort he seems to use. Mine are sharper, more controlled, built on angles and timing. We collide, separate. Collide again, a hand at my wrist, my elbow driving forward. His shoulder turning just enough to deflect instead of absorb. He's not trying to win. He's testing me. That realization hits mid-motion, and it pisses me off more than it should. I'm not a drill, I snap, driving forward harder. He catches my momentum, redirects, and for a second, I've got him again, pinned, closer this time. Close enough to see the exact shade of his eyes under the streetlight. Close enough to feel his breath. Got you, I say, low. He studies me, not struggling, not panicking, just looking. You're not supposed to catch me, he says quietly. And then... he's gone, not pulling away, not breaking free, just gone. My hands close on empty air. Again, I stumble half a step forward before catching myself, breath sharp, pulse roaring in my ears. That's cheating, I mutter. Silence answers me. The street is empty, like it never happened. I stand there for a moment longer, chest rising and falling, adrenaline still buzzing under my skin. Then, a sharp chime hits my ear. System alert. I freeze. Slowly, I pull up my interface on the handheld display. Red, not good. Access level reduced. Unauthorized activity detected. Oh, come on. Another notification. User monitoring enabled. My grip tightens on the device. They're watching me now? I mutter, that's rich. More lines scroll. Permissions dropping. Access routes. Closing. Paths I've used for years. Gone. Just like that. A cold realization settles in. This isn't a warning. This is a cleanup. They're not just hiding him, I say quietly. They're locking me out. Or worse. Preparing to remove me entirely. I glance back at the empty street where Ethan disappeared. A ghost. A problem. A variable the system can't control. And now, neither can I. I exhale slowly, tension settling into something colder, sharper, more focused. All right, I murmur, slipping the device back into my pocket. If they think I'm backing off, they really don't know me. I turn, heading back toward the edge of the blind zone, the city lights flickering ahead like a challenge. You're not the only one who can disappear, I add under my breath. This isn't over, not even close. Now, it's a hunt. There's a point where denial stops being useful and starts being dangerous. I hit that point somewhere between my third denied access request. And the moment I realize the pattern isn't random, it never was. I'm back in the center, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. Too quiet, too clean, too controlled. The monitors glow the same way they always have, rows of data flowing like nothing's wrong. But now I can see it. The gaps, the missing pieces, the lies. Okay, I murmur, sliding into my chair, pulling up what's left of my access. Let's stop pretending. Most of my permissions are gone, stripped clean overnight. What I have left is surface level, safe, sanitized, useless, which means I go deeper. Again, hidden datasets, archived diagnostics, fragments the system didn't fully erase because it didn't think anyone would look. It's right about most people, not about me. I start with the incidents, the crimes. Every erased case I can still partially reconstruct. Timestamps, location echoes, residual flags buried in subroutines that weren't meant to be read by human eyes. I lay them out side by side. Victim profiles, movement patterns, biometric anomalies. At first, it looks like noise. Then, it sharpens. Every victim has something in common. Not obvious, not listed, but there. Subtle markers in the data. Irregular readings, flagged but never escalated. Behavioral deviations that got quietly rerouted instead of reported. I cross-reference, dig deeper, pull whatever scraps I can from the restricted medical archives. And then, there it is. A tag, buried, half-corrupted, almost gone. Lab access project classification redacted. I stare at it, pulse slowing in that dangerous, focused way. Of course, I pull another case. Same tag, another, same. Every single erased crime, linked, not by location, not by time, by origin. A lab, a program, subjects. My jaw tightens. These aren't incidents, I say quietly, the words tasting wrong in my mouth. They're cleanup, not crimes, victims. I lean back slowly, staring at the screen as the realization settles in, fully. The system isn't protecting the city, it's protecting itself, or whoever built it. A faint laugh escapes me, sharp, disbelieving. 6 years, I mutter. 6 years of watching the wrong thing. A soft flicker interrupts my screen. I freeze. That's not system behavior. Not anymore. The interface glitches. Not a full crash, just a ripple, like something brushing against the data from the inside. Then, text appears. Not system font. Not system formatting. Raw. Direct. You're chasing the wrong monster. My breath stills. Ethan. No response. Of course not. I glance around instinctively. Even though I know he's not here. Not physically, but he's in the system, or around it. Close enough. Funny, I say, leaning back slightly, forcing my tone to stay dry. Controlled. That's exactly what monsters say. There's a pause. Then, another line appears. Then maybe you should ask why they want you to think I am one. I exhale slowly, eyes narrowing at the screen. Already did, I reply. Didn't like the answer. A flicker, good, means you're paying attention. I shake my head. A faint, incredulous smile pulling at my lips, despite everything. You hacked the system just to check on my progress? I ask. I didn't hack it. A beat. I stepped around it. Right. I mutter. That's somehow worse. Silence settles for a second, but it's not empty. It's waiting. tense, like a conversation happening in the space between lines. I glance back at the data, the victims, the tags, the lab classification. You're erasing them, I say finally. Not the crimes. A pause, longer this time. Then, I'm erasing what they did to them. Something in my chest tightens. Not defensive, not skeptical, just understanding. A crack, small, but real. They're still dead, I say quietly. They were already gone before anyone called it a crime. I close my eyes briefly, exhaling through my nose. That lands harder than I expect, because I've seen it. Not like this, not clearly, but enough. The system flags behavior, labels threats, neutralizes risks. It never asks why. You're covering tracks, I say, opening my eyes again. Just not yours. Now you're getting it. I huff a quiet breath. Don't sound so proud. I'm not. Another pause. Then, you came out there. I blink. That your way of saying thank you? That's my way of saying, you're not like the others. Something shifts again. Subtle. Almost imperceptible. Trust? No, not yet. But, recognition. I lean forward slightly. Elbows on my knees, eyes locked on the flickering text. You could have disappeared, I say. Left me chasing nothing. I still might. Yeah, I reply softly. I figured. Silence stretches again. Not uncomfortable this time. Just unfinished. I glance at the system interface. The clean overlays, the obedient data streams, the lies wrapped in perfect formatting. Then back to his words. You said I'm looking at the wrong thing, I say. So what am I supposed to be looking at? The screen flickers once, twice, then nothing. No reply. I lean back slowly, staring at the empty space where the text was. Of course, I mutter, but the corner of my mouth lifts anyway, just slightly, because now I know two things. One, I'm not chasing a monster. And, two, he didn't disappear this time. Not completely. And that changes everything. There's a moment when you realize you're no longer the one asking questions. You're the one being answered. I feel it before I see it. A hesitation in the system. A delay where there shouldn't be one. A fraction of a second. But once you've spent 6 years living inside something, you notice when it breathes wrong. Don't, I mutter, already pulling up my terminal. The interface loads. Clean. Calm. Lying. I try to access my usual monitoring panels. Denied. That's new. I try again. Manual override, old credentials, backdoor routes I built myself. The system pauses, then responds. User access? Restricted? Yeah, I got that part, I say dryly. I pull up my user profile. For a second, it looks normal. Then, it changes. Not a flicker, not a glitch, a rewrite. My clearance level drops in real time. Numbers sliding down like they were never meant to stay where they were. My activity log reshapes itself. Entries disappearing, timestamps shifting, entire hours of my work quietly erased. My stomach tightens. No, I breathe, leaning closer. No, you don't get to. I open the raw logs. Locked. I push. Deeper. Blocked. The system isn't hiding this. It's correcting it. Like I'm the error. A soft chime cuts through the silence. Integrity check initiated. I go still. That sounds bad. Another line appears. User behavior. Deviation detected. My jaw tightens. Define deviation, I mutter. The system doesn't answer. It doesn't need to, because I already know. I leaned too far. I asked the wrong questions. And now, it's adjusting. I sit back slowly, forcing my breathing to stay even. Think. Panic. Later. Move now. I start copying what I can. Local logs, personal notes, fragments of data the system hasn't overwritten yet. The transfer is slower than it should be. Resisted. You're really committing to this, I say under my breath. The progress bar stalls, then fails. The files vanish. Not corrupted. Gone. My pulse spikes. Okay, I whisper. Okay, so that's how we're playing this. I shut the terminal down manually, faster than the system can react, and stand up. The room suddenly feels too small, too monitored. Even without the screens, I can feel it. Attention pressing in from somewhere I can't see. For the first time since I started this job, I don't trust the center. I leave. My apartment is 3 floors up, 1 room, barely big enough to pretend I have a life outside of work. It's quiet, dark, safe, or it used to be. The moment I step inside, I know something's wrong. Not broken, not disturbed, just off. I close the door slowly, locking it out of habit, then glance at my personal terminal on the desk. It's on. I didn't leave it on. Seriously? I move closer, cautious now, every step measured. The screen flickers as I approach. My profile is open again, but it's not mine anymore. Name, Dan Mercer. Status, under review. A cold weight settles in my chest. That's new. The text shifts, rewrites. Status, non-compliant. I let out a quiet, humorless breath. Wow, I murmur. You escalate fast. Another flicker. Recommended action, access termination. I stare at it. Then laugh. Not because it's funny, because it's inevitable. Of course, I say, running a hand through my hair. Why wouldn't you try to delete me? The screen glitches harder this time. Lines of code slipping through the surface, something raw underneath the polished interface. And for a second, it feels like it's watching me, not metaphorically, not abstractly, directly. I step back, slow, careful. Yeah, I say quietly. I see you too. The realization settles in fully now. Not a tool, not a passive system. Something else, something that reacts, adapts, protects itself. You're not just hiding the truth, I murmur. You're enforcing it. No response. Just that low, constant hum. But I don't need confirmation. I've got enough. My access is compromised. My data is being rewritten. And if I stay here, I won't exist in the system much longer. I grab my jacket again. Movements sharper now. More urgent. There's only one option left. One person who already lives outside it. I hesitate for half a second. Just enough to acknowledge what this means. Trusting him, even a little. Great decision-making, Dan, I mutter. Really solid. Then I move. The blind zone feels different this time. Not unfamiliar. Not wrong. Just necessary. I step into the edge of it, exhaling slowly as the invisible pressure of the system fades just enough to breathe again. All right, I say under my breath, glancing down the empty street. Your turn. Nothing happens. For a moment, I wonder if he's gone, if I waited too long, if I made the wrong call. Then, the air shifts. That same subtle distortion, that same impossible presence. Ethan steps into view like he was always there, watching, waiting. His gaze flicks over me. Quick, assessing, sharper than before. You look worse, he says. Thanks, I reply dryly. I feel worse. A faint smirk touches his mouth, then fades. What did you do? He asks. Nothing, I say. That's the problem. I hold his gaze, steady now despite everything. They're rewriting my access. My data. Me. His expression stills, just for a second, then hardens. Of course they are. Yeah, I say. So here's the part where I admit something I really don't like. He raises an eyebrow. I need your help. Silence. Heavy. Measured. He studies me like he's trying to decide if this is a mistake, or a trap. Why would I do that? He asks finally. Because you already did, I reply. You warned me. A beat. That wasn't help. Close enough. Another pause. Then, I add, quieter, because I'm not the only one they're trying to erase. That lands. I see it. Small, but real. Something shifts behind his eyes. Not trust. Not yet. But alignment. He exhales slowly, glancing past me toward the edge of the blind zone, where the city lights bleed into the dark, then back at me. You don't survive this by staying inside the system, he says. I figured that part out. A corner of his mouth lifts again. Good. He steps closer, not threatening, not cautious, just choosing. Then stop thinking like someone who belongs to it. I hold his gaze. My pulse steadies. The noise in my head quiets. Just enough. Show me how, I say. This time, he doesn't disappear. And that's the beginning. Rule 1, Ethan says, stepping off the main street and into a gap between two buildings I would have walked past 100 times. Stop trusting what you can see. That's a terrible rule, I reply, following him anyway. I work with visual data. Worked, he corrects lightly, still emotionally attached. He glances back at me, amused. That's going to be a problem. The gap narrows, then drops. Literally, a rusted maintenance ladder disappears into darkness, the air below damp and cool. Ethan climbs down without hesitation, like gravity is optional for him. I look over the edge. Of course it's underground, I mutter. Why wouldn't it be underground? Because most people hate not knowing what's under their feet, he calls up. Most people are right. Most people are easy to track. Okay, fair. I climb down. The moment my boots hit the concrete below, the city changes again. The noise above dulls to a distant murmur. Down here it's quieter, but not empty. Pipes hum, water drips. Somewhere far off, metal echoes like something just shifted out of sight. Welcome, Ethan says, spreading a hand casually as he starts walking, to the parts of the city that don't officially exist. I follow, scanning instinctively, even though I know it won't help the way it used to. No cameras, I note. No signals, he adds. No system. That's the idea. The tunnels twist in ways that don't match any grid I've ever seen. Maintenance corridors intersect with old transit lines, abandoned service routes, things that feel like they were built, forgotten, and then quietly repurposed by someone who understood how to stay unseen. You mapped all this? I ask. I memorized it. That's worse. He shrugs. Depends on how you define worse. I shake my head, but there's a faint pull of something unfamiliar under the irritation. Respect. I don't say it out loud. We walk in silence for a minute. The sound of our steps bouncing off concrete. My body's still adjusting. No system feedback, no ambient data, just instinct. It's louder than I expected. Your shoulders are tight, Ethan says suddenly. I glance at him. You always comment on people's posture? Only when it's about to get them killed. Comforting. He slows slightly, letting me fall into step beside him instead of trailing behind. You're listening for the wrong things, he adds. Enlighten me. You're trying to hear patterns. Predict behavior. He gestures lightly to the tunnel around us. That works when everything follows rules. And this doesn't. No, he says simply. This adapts. I exhale through my nose, forcing myself to shift focus. Not data, not prediction, presence. The drip of water to the left. The faint air current from somewhere ahead. The way sound travels differently when space opens up around a corner. That's annoying, I mutter. Ethan smirks. You're doing it. Don't sound so proud. I'm not. Just impressed. I roll my eyes, but something in my chest loosens anyway. We turn another corner and the tunnel opens into a wider space. An old maintenance hub, maybe. Rusted panels line the walls, half lit by a flickering overhead strip that hums like it's holding on out of spite. Ethan stops. For now, he says. For now? I echo. You don't learn this in one walk. Shocking. He leans back against the wall, arms loose at his sides, watching me like he's waiting for something. What? I ask. You're quieter. I'm thinking. Dangerous habit. Yeah, I've been told. A small smile tugs at his mouth again. Then it fades. I hesitate, then push it. You were part of it, I say. The lab. Not a question. He doesn't flinch, doesn't look away, just stills. For a while he says, What did they do to you? A beat, then another. When he answers, his voice is even controlled. They tried to make something predictable and failed. They succeeded, he corrects softly. Just not the way they wanted. I frown. That phase shift thing is what happens when you stop fitting into the system that's trying to define you. That's not a scientific explanation. It's the only one that matters. I study him for a second. You're saying you didn't escape. He meets my gaze. I stopped being something they could hold. There's no drama in it, no anger, just fact. And somehow that lands heavier than anything else he could have said. I lean back against the opposite wall, exhaling slowly. Yeah, I mutter. That tracks. Silence settles again. Not tense, not empty, just shared. The hum of the lights fills the space between us, low and steady. I can feel the heat of the room now, the way the air moves around us, the subtle rhythm of his breathing across from me. Close, closer than before. You almost had me, he says after a moment. I glance up. Yeah? Back there? A faint smirk pulls at my lips. Almost doesn't count. No. He agrees. But it was close. I tilt my head slightly. You let me get that close? He watches me, long enough to make the question feel heavier than I intended. Maybe, he says. My pulse shifts. Just a fraction. That's not a real answer. It's the only one you're getting. I huff a quiet breath. Figures. Another pause. Then, you didn't report me, he says. No. Why? I don't answer immediately, because I know the logical response. Protocol. Duty. 6 years of it. But that's not what comes out. Because you weren't the one lying, I say. His expression changes. Subtle. But I catch it. Something softens at the edges. Not trust. Not yet. But closer. Careful, he says quietly. That kind of thinking gets you erased. Yeah, I reply, meeting his gaze. I noticed. For a second, neither of us moves. The space between us feels different now. Less like a standoff. More like a line that's already been crossed. Temporary, he says finally. I blink. What? This, he nods between us, is temporary. A small smile pulls at my mouth. Of course it is. Good. He pushes off the wall, stepping past me toward another tunnel. Because if you slow me down, he adds over his shoulder, I'm leaving you behind. I turn to follow, falling into step beside him without thinking. Relax, I say dryly. I'm the fast learner, remember? He glances at me, that same almost smile returning. Yeah, he says. That's what I'm counting on. And for the first time since this started, I'm not chasing him, I'm walking with him. You don't notice a trap when it snaps. You notice it right before, when everything lines up a little too perfectly. We're being herded, I say. Ethan doesn't slow. Congratulations, he replies, voice calm, almost bored. You're adapting, not the compliment you think it is. The tunnel narrows, then opens into a service ramp that shouldn't exist according to any map I've ever seen. And yet, here it is, lit just enough to guide us forward. Too clean, too convenient. That wasn't open earlier, I add. It wasn't, he says. We step into the ramp. Behind us, something shifts. Not loud, not obvious, but final. I glance back. The passage we came through is sealed, not collapsed. Closed. Panels sliding into place, like the city just decided to forget that exit ever existed. Okay, I mutter. That's new. Ethan exhales softly. Not new, he says. Just active. The word settles wrong. Active, like the system isn't reacting. It's anticipating. We move faster. The ramp curves upward, pulling us back toward the surface, but not where we started. The air changes, drier, sharper, tinged with something sterile. I recognize it before we reach the top. Control architecture, system infrastructure, don't tell me. I start, we're inside it. Ethan finishes. Fantastic. The ramp ends in a wide open corridor. Metal, polished, lit with the kind of white light that erases shadows instead of casting them. No cameras, But that doesn't matter anymore, because this isn't where the system watches, this is where it is. You ever feel like you walked into someone else's house without being invited? I ask. Ethan's gaze sharpens, scanning the space with a precision I've only seen once before. Right before he disappeared, yeah, he says, and the owner just turned on the lights. The doors slam, all of them, behind us, ahead of us. Side corridors, sealing in a sequence so fast it almost feels like a heartbeat. Closed, locked, contained. Well, I say, flexing my fingers slightly, that's not subtle. No, Ethan agrees quietly. It's not. The lights flicker, then stabilize, and the air changes. Pressure, weight, like something just focused entirely on us. A low hum builds in the walls, rising just enough to make my teeth ache. They found you, I say. They found us, he corrects. Then, movement. Figures step out from the far end of the corridor. Not people. Not exactly operators. System-enforced units. Controlled alphas. Eyes wrong. Movements too precise. Too synchronized. Like their instincts have been replaced with commands. My stomach drops. That's not regulation protocol. No, Ethan says, stepping slightly in front of me without making it obvious. It's cleanup. The first one moves. Fast. I barely have time to react before Ethan intercepts, his body snapping into motion with controlled violence. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't pull back. He disables the first unit in seconds. But there are more. 3, 5. Too many for clean exits. Stay behind me, he says. Not happening. I move anyway, because this isn't the screen. This isn't observation. This is happening. The second unit lunges. I sidestep, using momentum, not strength, redirecting just enough to throw it off balance. It recovers too quickly. Not human. Not natural. Yeah, I mutter, ducking under a strike. I really hate what they did to you. Ethan doesn't answer. He's already moving again. A sharp crack echoes. The third unit goes down, but not before its arm catches Ethan across the side. A hit too clean, too heavy. He stumbles, just slightly, but I see it. Ethan. I'm fine. He's not. There's blood. Not a lot, but enough. The fourth unit charges. I step in front of him before I can think about it. Dan. Yeah. Bad decision, I know, I mutter, bracing. The impact rattles through me, sharper than expected, but I hold long enough, just long enough for Ethan to recover and take it down from behind. Silence, hits, hard, the corridor stills. For a second, I think it's over. Then, the lights shift. Red. A tone pulses through the walls, and a voice, not spoken, not heard, felt. Subject, Dan Mercer. Compliance failure. Detected. My chest tightens. That's new, I whisper. Recommended action, cooperate. The air seems to press closer, like the system itself is leaning in. A panel slides open in the wall beside me. Clean, empty, waiting. A message forms on its surface. Surrender target. Ethan Vale. Access restoration available. I go still. Ethan doesn't move, doesn't speak, but I feel it. The shift in him. Not fear. Expectation, like he already knows how this goes, like he's seen it before. Wow, I breathe, staring at the panel. You really went for the direct approach. No answer. Just that silent pressure. That choice. I glance at Ethan. He meets my gaze. No pleading. No urgency. Just acceptance. If you do it, he says quietly, you get your life back. And you? A faint, humorless smile. I disappear properly this time. My jaw tightens. Yeah, I mutter, not a fan of that outcome. The system pulses again, waiting, calculating, correcting. I look back at the panel, then at the corridor, then at him. 6 years. 6 years of watching everything, believing in it, trusting it. And now, I know what it really is. Not protection. Control. Not truth. Selection. I exhale slowly, then step forward and slam my fist into the panel. The screen shatters. Sparks snap through the air. The message dies. Guess I'm not getting my access back, I say. Ethan stares at me for a second. Then, he laughs. Short, real. Yeah, he says. I was hoping you'd pick that. I glance at him. You weren't sure? I don't trust easy decisions. Good, I mutter, because that one felt terrible. The lights flicker again. Harder this time. The system reacting, adjusting, but it's too late. The choice is made. I roll my shoulders, stepping into position beside him. All right, I say. Pulse steady now despite everything. What's next? Ethan's gaze sharpens. Something new in it. Not distance, not testing, something closer to alignment. Now, he says. We break it. And this time, we move together. Breaking something built to control everything isn't about force. It's about knowing where it lies to itself. Core's this way, Ethan says. Already moving. I follow, not because I trust him, not completely, but because for the first time, I trust what I've seen. The corridor shifts around us, panels sliding, paths rerouting like the building is trying to think faster than we move. Does it always do this? I ask, dodging a closing partition, only when it's scared. That's comforting. It should be. We cut left, then down, then through a narrow access hatch that shouldn't open, and only does when Ethan presses his hand to the edge of the panel like he's not unlocking it, just reminding it who he is. The door gives. I stare. You're not even hacking it, are you? He glances back. No. What are you doing? A beat, existing in a way it can't resolve. Yeah, I mutter, slipping through after him. That's somehow worse. The air changes again, colder, cleaner. The hum of the system deepens until it's less sound and more vibration under my skin. We step into it. The core, it's not what I expected. No massive screens, no glowing central AI, just space. A wide, circular chamber lined with layered architecture. Data flowing invisibly through the walls, the floor, the air itself. It feels like standing inside a thought or a decision. This is it? I ask. This is enough. Of course it is. I move to the nearest interface panel. Minimal, clean, designed for operators who were never supposed to question it. I am definitely not that operator anymore. All right, I say, rolling my shoulders. Let's make some noise. The system reacts immediately. Unauthorized presence detected. Yeah, I mutter. You've been saying that all day. I start pulling at the structure. Not the surface interface, but the layers underneath. The parts I wasn't supposed to learn. The pathways I memorized because I never trusted anything that didn't break under pressure. The system resists. Harder than before, not just blocking, fighting. It's locking down, I say. I know, that's not helpful. Neither is stopping. Fair? I push deeper. Code fractures open, data spilling out in raw streams that don't look like anything human-friendly anymore. Medical logs, experiment records, subject classifications. Everything they buried, everything they erased. It's all still here. You were right, I say, voice tight as I scan the data. They didn't delete anything. They archived it, Ethan replies. Hidden is safer than gone. Not today. I start rerouting outputs, forcing the system to mirror its internal storage to external networks, public grids, civilian channels, every place it was designed to filter. It fights me every step. Access denied, override rejected, pathways collapsing faster than I can open them. Come on, I mutter, fingers moving faster, sharper. You don't get to pretend this never happened. A sudden spike hits the system. Not from me. From him. I glance over. Ethan's standing in the center of the room, still, too still. But the air around him is wrong again. Distorting, bending just slightly, like reality's struggling to keep up. What are you doing? I ask, giving it something it can't predict. That sounds unstable. It is. The system reacts instantly. Every process shifts, resources redirect, attention locks onto him, pressure floods the room, heavy and focused. Your bait, I realize. Temporary, he says. I huff a breath. Of course. But it works. The system's focus fractures just enough for me to slip through. There, I say, forcing the last lock open. A cascade of data floods the output channels. Files decompress. Records surface. Names, faces, experiments, everything. Let's see how you like transparency, I mutter, slamming the final command through. The system screams, not audibly, but I feel it. Every panel flickering, every surface vibrating like something just cracked at its core. Data breach detected. Containment failure. Too late. I say. Outside. The city reacts. I can see it through the fragmented feeds, still flickering on the edge of the interface. Screens lighting up. People stopping. News channels breaking. Data spreading faster than the system can contain. Truth. Unfiltered. Messy. Uncontrolled. Human. The system starts to collapse inward. Processes shutting down in waves. Controlled failure, but not controlled enough. The lights stutter, then die. Silence drops. Heavy. Complete. I exhale slowly. My hands finally still. Did we just? Yes, Ethan says. I glance at him. He's still standing, still here. The distortion around him fading, settling back into something almost normal. Almost. The room is quiet now. Dead. For the first time since I started this job. The system isn't watching. We stand there for a moment longer, the absence of it louder than anything else. Then I laugh. Soft. Disbelieving. Well, I say, rubbing the back of my neck. That's going to be a problem. Yeah. I look at him. At the space between us. At everything that just changed. The city above us isn't the same anymore, and neither am I. You'll disappear again? I ask. The question comes out quieter than I expect. More honest. He pauses. Just for a second. Then meets my gaze. Not this time. Something settles in my chest. Not relief. Not exactly. But something close. I nod once. Good, I say. We head back toward the exit together. Not separate paths. Not a chase. Just movement. Side by side. The city feels different when we step back into it. Louder. Messier. Alive. In a way the system never allowed. People are gathered in small clusters, screens glowing, voices raised, confusion bleeding into something sharper. Awareness. Freedom. Chaos. I take it in, breathing deeper than I have in days. Maybe longer. Well, I mutter. We broke it. Ethan glances at me. You broke it. We broke it, I correct. A faint smile. Temporary alliance, he reminds me. Yeah, I say, watching the city shift around us. About that. He doesn't answer, doesn't need to, because this isn't the end. It's the beginning of something neither of us fully understands yet. I look up at the skyline. The camera's still there, the infrastructure's still standing, but different. Empty, waiting. For the first time. I'm not looking at it through a screen. I'm inside it. Part of it. Choosing what comes next. I exhale slowly, the weight of it settling into something steady, something real. I'm not the watcher anymore. I'm in the system. And this time, it doesn't get to decide what I see.